Our next speaker is Nicole Almanzor. Nicole is a caregiver. She is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, business owner, wife, caregiver, and mother of two who leads her family and business life with intention, balance, and purpose. She's a marketing graduate. She began her career in global travel as a flight attendant for an international airline based in Abu Dhabi. She later founded, I guess it's Thait, or T-H-E-I-T, a camera bag company where she served as founder and creative director and has since built a portfolio of ventures, including an apparel brand and digital businesses. Passionate about travel and photography, she is continually inspired by culture, movement, and storytelling. Deeply committed to giving back, she aspires to one day build a nonprofit in her homeland of the Philippines. Beyond her work, she is drawn to ceramics, where the practice of shaping from raw form reflects her belief in patience, creativity, and the quiet power of transformation. Please welcome Nicole.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicole Almanzor, a mother and a longtime caregiver for my husband, Jan, who was diagnosed with stage 3B stomach cancer in 2015. But before we begin, I would like to take a moment to warn you. This is the part of the conference where I cannot promise no tears. Thought I'd get that out there just in case. Now let's start from the very beginning. Oops. It was January of 2015. Me and my husband were at the absolute peak of our lives as a family of 3, soon to be 4. We had just moved into one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in Toronto with our then 3-year-old daughter. I had just given birth to our baby boy, Colton. We were living on a high, with endless plans of tomorrow and a whole bucket list of things we were eager to check off. Life felt hopeful, exciting, and wide open. But if there's one core memory that stood out above all others during that time, it was this. Yes, that's my husband holding our newborn, lying comfortably on the patient's bed, my bed. Mind you, this was mere hours after a grueling C-section. And if any of you have ever been through something like that, you know exactly how that goes. But there he is, perfectly horizontal, comfortable, while I sit silently beside him in one of the most aggressively uncomfortable chairs ever designed by mankind. Some of you very well know that hospital chair I'm talking about. I remember one nurse staring him down with a full eagle eye, and rightfully so. She could not believe what she was seeing. She made a comment about how on earth he could possibly be sprawled out like that while I sat there in pain. And honestly, I didn't think much of it at the time. My husband was one of the most caring, helpful, present new dads you'd ever come across. If she knew him, she'd understand, I thought. I chalked it up to sleepless nights, the stresses of days leading up to the surgery, the weight of new parenthood. Most of us know what all of that looks like. But looking back, that day was the first of many red flags. Like, how could I have really known? In the days that followed, my husband was extraordinarily tired, pale, low energy, complaining of worsening acid reflux. He'd actually been going to the doctor for that for a while and had simply been given the standard reflux medication. He was young and healthy, nothing to worry about, they say. And we, as new parents, chalked it up to the ebbs and flows of life. But weeks passed and his symptoms kept getting worse, to the point where he had to advocate hard for continued testing. Blood tests came back alarming, iron and blood levels beyond acceptable. His doctor called him back within less than a day. A series of more tests followed, and then finally, a referral for an endoscopy. I still remember that day so clearly. I drove him to the clinic because he wouldn't be allowed to drive himself home. And I remember watching him through the small window just outside the room being wheeled in. And for a brief moment, I could swear we locked eyes. A quiet little see you later. Little did I know that view through that window was the beginning and the end of our life as we know it. Hours later, a nurse called me in and brought me to a small room. The doctor came in, and with the calmest voice you've ever heard, he sat me down and said some of the heaviest 3 words we'd ever hear. We found cancer. And anyone who's ever heard those words before, you know the weight they carry. The doctor gave us space, and for what felt like forever, we just sat there together. Him in his rightful spot on the patient's bed, me right beside him. We hugged and cried for what felt like hours. And somewhere in the background, I noticed the song playing, Fireworks by Katy Perry, our daughter's favorite song at the time. And in that moment, I realized I now had to play the part of caregiver. Broken as I was, I consoled him. Tears in my eyes, I wiped his and told him everything was going to be okay. My mom had breast cancer years ago, and she survived it. We'll survive this too. I remember the rush of emotions flooding through me, hopeless, uncertain, broken, and for a brief moment, I let myself grieve the version of life we thought we were living. I remember thinking, what's going to happen to us? To our family, to me? This can't be it. I can't possibly be built for this. There's no way I'm that girl, the one who stands in front of a crowd one day and tells her inspiring story. This cannot be happening to us. But it did, and we had to push through. The weeks after felt like a total whirlwind. On top of everything, parenthood, newborn life, raw grief, we were navigating referral after referral, test after test, all while being reminded over and over of the reality we now faced. Within that stretch, we met some of the best doctors at Princess Margaret. His diagnosis was confirmed. The treatment plan, radiotherapy, several rounds of chemo, a total gastrectomy, and then more chemo. What once felt like a curse, being too young for this or that, ultimately became a blessing. Because he was in his early 30s, aggressive treatment was on the table, and he took every single one of them. There was never a day I didn't make sure I was right beside him. Day in and day out, I walked an hour from our condo to Princess Margaret, often at a near running pace. I wanted to be there the moment visitors were allowed in, until I was kicked out at the end of the night. I watched him there every day, weak and often in pain, cords all around him, but with his undeniable quiet strength, and in turn, I gave him the same. Every night, I counted the minutes until I got to see him the next day. That walk to the hospital was often the highlight of my day. But I'd be lying if I said that it also wasn't some of my darkest, because the walk home was a different story entirely. I remember leaving the hospital, walking home and bursting into tears. Every fear, every pressure, every piece of grief I had held back throughout the day, all bursting open at once, alone. And in the middle of all this, we had just had our baby boy. We were navigating cancer at the exact peak of early parenthood. While my husband and I spent most of our days at the hospital, and he spent most of the nights in his patient bed, our baby boy spent those early months at his grandparents' bed. We were facing first in my husband's cancer journey at the very same time we were missing first in our son's life, moments I will never get back. And as a mother, there is a different kind of grief in that. Looking back at those months, I am still in awe of my husband. Despite every physical blow, every setback, every uncertainty, he remained that beacon of light. I can only imagine the weight he carried internally, the fear that must have taken a toll on him in ways I'll never fully know. He had hoped to come home for Christmas that year. That didn't happen. He spent his first Christmas alone in that hospital bed. Then, New Year's too. And still he remained hopeful. And I remained grateful. Grateful for his strength, grateful for his light. But that's the thing about being a caregiver. We often find ourselves hiding behind this light. How could we not? We aren't the ones who need the strength to heal. We aren't the ones on the front side of fear. And I get it. But the call to carry our own fire is also loud. They may have spent endless nights in that hospital, but it was us who remained at their bedside. They may have needed to find the strength to walk into treatment, but it was us who held their hands and often held the door. They may have needed the courage to face that dreaded update meeting with the oncologist. Scanxiety is real. But it was us who kept a straight face of hope and held it all together. They may have been consumed by doubt, fear, and uncertainty, but we faced those same things right alongside them, and often quietly. Their pain, their tears, their fears, their uncertainty, they were never theirs alone. It was ours too. The thing that no one warns you loudly enough about being a caregiver is how deeply alone it can feel. And when you've already lost yourself in the process, that loneliness can be so much heavier. You become the person who holds space for everyone, the source of updates, the keeper of information, the one people call when they need reassurance, while you yourself are living inside the very nightmare you're being asked to describe. But often, the truth is, you are never really asked, but how are you doing? And the guilt and shame for even wanting that, for wanting to be seen, can sometimes be louder than everything else. You are expected to be the strong one, the knowledgeable one, the accessible one, the one who has it together, while you are quietly unraveling behind the scenes. The weight of holding it together, the weight of remaining strong while slowly breaking apart, the weight of being the person who holds space for everyone, while feeling like there's no space being held for you. And the one person you always leaned on, that was also the one person you could no longer lean on the same way. You were grieving the life that once was, and the version of yourself that could no longer exist. But you had to grieve in the shadows, because in comparison to what they were going through, how could you? You were mentally, physically, and spiritually exhausted, but how could you possibly complain? More times than I'd like to admit, I found myself falling into the rabbit hole, spiraling into the what ifs, worrying about him, his health, our future, our kids' futures, and then I'd crawl back out. Because you cannot let yourself go there. You cannot allow that thought to grow, let alone share it with anyone. So back into the shadows you go. Here's what I wish I had known then. Don't lose yourself. If I could go back and tell younger me one thing, it would be this: you are allowed to exist too. Because somewhere in the middle of all of it, in between the hospital walks and the late nights and the holding it together, I lost myself. Not all at once. It happened slowly, quietly, the way things tend to happen when you're too busy surviving to notice. I stopped asking for what I needed. I stopped having needs, full stop. I became so singularly focused on keeping everyone else afloat that I forgot I was also in the water. And here's what they don't tell you. You cannot pour from an empty cup. I know, it's a cliche I've heard 1,000 times. But I'm telling you, as someone who tried to pour from a bone-dry cup for far longer than I should have, it is the truest thing I know. Embrace the permission slip, the permission to break down, the permission to fall apart in the car, permission to cry in the shower or on the walk home, or in the elevator between floors of the hospital. Because I have done all three, and I'm telling you, every single one of those tears are earned. Permission to feel all of the feelings, the fear, the anger, the resentment you feel and then immediately feel guilty about. All of it is valid. All of it is real. You are not weak for feeling it. You are human. Being strong does not mean not breaking. Being strong means breaking and then picking yourself back up. Sometimes just enough to get you through the hour. Carrying quiet strength doesn't mean you have no weight. It means carrying it with grace, even when it's crushing you. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. I wish I had prioritized myself sooner. Sleep, food, a walk that wasn't to or from the hospital, a phone call with a friend who made me laugh, a moment, even just a moment, just entirely mine. These things, they're not luxuries. They are survival. They are what make it possible for you to keep showing up. and ask for help. Please, I cannot say this loudly enough. Surround yourself with people who truly get it, who understand the journey, who don't need you to explain or minimize or perform. Whether that's a support group, a therapist, a friend who just sits with you in it, find your people and let them hold some of the weight. You are not designed to do this alone. We found a community within My Gut Feeling, other caregivers, other families walking this road. And what I found here was something I didn't even know I'd been looking for. People who got it, who didn't flinch, who knew. Find your version of that. And here's what I know now that I didn't know then. We either burn ourselves to ashes in our own fire, or we choose to tend to it. We carry the fire not because we are superhuman. We carry it because we love someone who needed us to, and that is everything. But we have to remember, tending to the fire also means tending to ourselves, because they carry that light, in part because we kept ourselves burning too. That Miss Christmas, that's the one that made us celebrate every single Christmas after with a completely unhinged level of obsession. Truly, full commitment, no apologies. Because we know in our bones what it felt like to almost not have it. That's what this journey does to you. It rearranges your priorities in ways that nothing else can. You stop taking the small things for granted. You start actually living. Because you have looked at the alternative and you have chosen this every single day. 10 years cancer-free. I want to let that land for a second. 10 years. Every time I look at our now 11-year-old son, Colton, a big boy, I'm reminded of how far we've come. We are living our dream life, the life we almost lost the chance to build. We raised two strong, smart, resilient, wildly funny kids, River and Colton, who have grown up watching their parents choose each other, choose hope, and choose to keep going. I believe with everything I have that what they witnessed shaped them in ways that will serve them for the rest of their lives. We are stronger than we have ever been, not despite what we went through, because of it. We were tested in the deepest way two people can be tested. And we came out the other side with a level of gratitude and presence and intentionality that I don't think we would ever have found ourselves. There is nothing that together we cannot do. We have traveled, we have seen the world, we have said yes to the things that matter and stopped apologizing for it. We've built a life that on some of those darkest days, I wasn't sure I'd be allowed to have. And I am standing in here in front of a crowd telling my story, our story. I told you I wasn't that girl. Look at us now. And if I leave you with one thing today, just one, it's this. You only get one life. Tend to your fire, not just for them, for you. Because the version of you that shows up for the people you love, the strongest, most present, most grounded version, is the version that also showed up for herself. The fire we carry is both a burden and a blessing. It is heavy and it is beautiful, but it's also ours. And if you are in the thick of it right now, if you are on that walk home, holding back tears until you're out of sight, I see you. I have been you. You are not alone. You are not weak. You are, in the truest sense of the word, carrying fire. And fire, when tended to, does not burn out. It lights the way. And if there's one thing I've learned through witnessing my husband's light throughout these years, it is his unwavering belief in living one day at a time, taking it day by day. Now, I was definitely not a day-to-day kind of girl. I was a planner, a worrier, a girl with a checklist, and a 5-year timeline. But that simple, quiet outlook, I believe it carried us through, with no pull from yesterday, No weight of tomorrow, just today, just this moment. So before I step off this platform, I want to leave you with one thought. How would you choose to live here today? Thank you.
That is such an amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing that perspective. I think there's a lot of caregivers in this room that really feel what you're feeling, right? Oftentimes, the focus is on the patient, right? How is the patient doing? What is the patient's cancer doing, right? But behind each patient, I hope there is somebody like you, Nicole, to lean on, to support, and what you say, I think, resonates with a lot of people here. You are not alone, though. You have somebody beside you right now. Jan, would you mind standing up for us? And Jan is a 10-year stomach cancer survivor. So thank you, Jan. Thank you, Nicole. And the kids, of course. I don't want to put them on the spot, but this is a wonderful family that's been with us for the last 10 years. Thank you so much for coming today and being here today.